Imagine a van racing toward the edge of a 100-foot cliff. Inside, 6 children, scared, helpless, while the hands gripping the wheel belong to the very people meant to protect them. No brakes, no hesitation. And then, free fall. Was this a tragic accident or a calculated murder? The warning signs were there all along, and no one stopped it. In the quiet corners of West Lynn, Oregon, Jennifer and Sarah Hart, a married couple, appeared to embody the essence of progressive, loving parenthood. They had opened their home to 6 adopted children: Marcus, Hannah, Devontae, Jeremiah, Abigail, and Sierra. To the outside world, they were the epitome of compassion and modern family values. A white couple providing a nurturing environment for 6 black children rescued from the foster care system. Jennifer, often referred to as Jen, was the more visible face of the family. Her social media profiles were meticulously curated, showcasing a life filled with joy, adventure, and activism. Photographs depicted the family at music festivals, political rallies, and nature excursions. The children were frequently seen with wide smiles, embracing each other and their mothers, embodying the hashtag #HeartFamilyLove that Jen often used. One image, in particular, captured the world's attention. Devontae Hart, then 12 years old, tearfully hugging a police officer during a 2014 protest in Portland, Oregon. The photograph went viral, symbolizing hope and unity amidst racial tensions in the United States. Devontae, with his signature wide-brimmed hat and heartfelt expression, became an emblem of innocence and the family's commitment to social justice. However, beneath this veneer of idyllic family life lay a more sinister reality. The Harts' journey began in Minnesota, where Jennifer and Sarah, both originally from South Dakota, met and eventually married. They shared a passion for social causes and soon decided to expand their family through adoption. In 2006, they adopted their first set of siblings, Marcus, Hannah, and Abigail. 2 years later, they welcomed another trio, Devontae, Jeremiah, and Sierra. From the outset, there were signs of trouble. Teachers and acquaintances observed that the children exhibited unusual behaviors. They were overly reserved, displayed signs of food deprivation, and were prone to sudden emotional outbursts. In one instance, Hannah reportedly told a school nurse that she had owies on her stomach and back, attributing them to her mother, Jennifer. This led to an investigation in 2010, during which Sarah took the blame, pleading guilty to domestic assault. She received a suspended sentence and a year of probation. Despite these red flags, the family continued to project an image of unity and happiness. They relocated to Oregon, seeking a fresh start. Jen's social media posts became even more frequent, portraying the family as harmonious and engaged in various social causes. The children were homeschooled, further isolating them from external scrutiny. Neighbors in Oregon began noticing peculiarities. The children rarely played outside and seemed hesitant to interact. On multiple occasions, they came to neighbors' doors late at night, pleading for food and expressing fear. One neighbor recounted an incident where Devontae, with tears in his eyes, asked for something to eat, stating that his mother's withheld food as punishment. In 2017, the family moved once more, this time to a remote property in Woodland, Washington. The isolation deepened, and the children's cries for help became more desperate. Hannah reportedly jumped out of a second-story window at 1:30 a.m., running to a neighbor's house, begging for protection. She claimed that her mothers were abusive and that they punished the children by withholding food and inflicting physical harm. Despite these alarming reports, interventions were minimal. The family's polished online presence and Jen's persuasive demeanor often convinced authorities and acquaintances that any concerns were misunderstandings or exaggerations. The contrast between their public persona and private reality was stark. While social media showcased a family united in love and activism, the truth was a household governed by control, fear, and manipulation. The tragic culmination of these hidden abuses occurred in March 2018. After a visit from Child Protective Services, prompted by the children's pleas to neighbors, Jennifer and Sarah made a fateful decision. They loaded their 6 children into their SUV and drove off a cliff along the Pacific Coast Highway in Mendocino County, California. The vehicle plunged 100 feet, killing all 8 members of the Hart family. The world grappled with the dissonance between the Harts' public image and the horrifying reality. Investigations revealed a pattern of abuse, neglect, and systemic failures that allowed the facade to persist. The story of the Hart family serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of curated online personas and the unseen suffering that can exist behind closed doors. You've made it this far, which means you crave the truth, the raw, unfiltered reality behind the stories no one dares to tell. If that's you, then hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Here, we uncover the dark corners of history, crime, and mystery with the depth and honesty they deserve. Be part of a community that questions everything and seeks the facts. Subscribe now, because some stories should never be forgotten. In the heart of Texas, 6 young souls began their lives under circumstances fraught with hardship and uncertainty. Marcus, Hannah, Devontae, Jeremiah, Abigail, and Sierra were born into environments marked by instability, substance abuse, and neglect. Their early years were a tumultuous blend of transient homes, inconsistent care, and the looming shadow of the foster care system. Marcus Hart, the eldest, was born with the weight of responsibility far beyond his years. From a tender age, he assumed the role of protector for his younger siblings, often shielding them from the chaos that surrounded their biological home. His eyes, deep and contemplative, spoke of an old soul weathered by experiences no child should endure. Hannah Hart, with her gentle demeanor and shy smile, yearned for a sense of belonging. The instability of her early environment left her anxious and withdrawn, craving the security of a loving home. Her delicate nature was a testament to the resilience she harbored, even in the face of adversity. Devontae Hart, perhaps the most publicly recognized of the siblings, possessed an innate charisma. His infectious laughter and expressive eyes masked the inner turmoil of a child who had seen too much too soon. The viral image of him hugging a police officer during a protest became emblematic of hope, yet behind that embrace lay a history of pain and longing for acceptance. Jeremiah Hart exuded a quiet strength. His stoic exterior belied a sensitive heart that had been bruised by the unpredictability of his early life. He often found solace in art, using drawing as an escape from the harsh realities that plagued his formative years. Abigail Hart, with her bright eyes and inquisitive nature, was a beacon of curiosity. Despite the neglect she faced, her spirit remained unbroken, and she sought comfort in books, dreaming of worlds far removed from her own. Sierra Hart, the youngest, embodied a precocious wisdom. Her early experiences instilled in her a heightened sense of awareness, making her acutely sensitive to the emotions of those around her. She clung to her older siblings, drawing strength from their presence amidst the uncertainty. The trajectory of their lives took a pivotal turn when they were removed from their biological homes due to allegations of abuse and neglect. The Texas Department of Family and Protective Services intervened, placing the siblings into the foster care system. The separation from their birth families, while a protective measure, introduced a new set of challenges, as the children grappled with feelings of abandonment and the daunting prospect of an uncertain future. In 2006, Jennifer and Sarah Hart, a couple residing in Minnesota, entered the picture. Motivated by a desire to make a difference, they adopted Marcus, Hannah, and Abigail. 2 years later, they expanded their family by adopting Devontae, Jeremiah, and Sierra. On the surface, it appeared that the children had found a sanctuary, a place to heal and flourish. However, the reality within the Hart household starkly contrasted the idyllic image portrayed on social media. Jennifer and Sarah meticulously curated an online presence that showcased a harmonious family engaged in activism, travel, and communal living. Photographs depicted the children smiling at music festivals, participating in social justice rallies, and exploring the great outdoors. The narrative was one of unity, love, and progressive values. Behind closed doors, a different story unfolded. The children were subjected to strict disciplinary measures, isolation, and control that extended to their basic needs. Reports from educators and neighbors painted a grim picture. The children appeared malnourished, exhibited signs of physical abuse, and were often deprived of food as a form of punishment. In one harrowing account, Hannah reportedly leaped from a second-story window in a desperate bid for help, her fear palpable as she pleaded with neighbors to protect her from her mothers. The systemic failures that allowed this facade to persist are manifold. Despite multiple reports to Child Protective Services in Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington, the family evaded thorough investigations, often relocating to new states to escape scrutiny. The polished veneer of their public persona, combined with Jennifer's persuasive demeanor, effectively masked the underlying abuse. The tragic culmination of these events occurred in March 2018. Facing another impending investigation from Child Protective Services, Jennifer and Sarah made a fateful decision. They loaded their 6 children into their SUV and drove off a cliff along the Pacific Coast Highway in Mendocino County, California. The deliberate act claimed the lives of all 8 family members, leaving a nation grappling with the dissonance between perception and reality. In reflecting upon the lives of Marcus, Hannah, Devontae, Jeremiah, Abigail, and Sierra, one is confronted with the profound injustice they endured. Removed from their biological families under the premise of protection, they were thrust into a cycle of abuse and manipulation that ultimately led to their untimely deaths. Their story serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities within the child welfare system and the imperative need for vigilance, transparency, and accountability to safeguard the innocent. In the digital age, social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram have become stages where individuals curate and project idealized versions of their lives. Jennifer Hart adeptly harnessed these platforms to construct a facade of a harmonious and loving family, effectively masking the underlying turmoil and abuse that plagued the Hart household. Jennifer's online presence was meticulously crafted to showcase a family deeply engaged in activism, adventure, and affection. Photographs depicted the Hart children, Marcus, Hannah, Devontae, Jeremiah, Abigail, and Sierra, participating in music festivals, social justice rallies, and various outdoor excursions. These images radiated joy and unity, leading followers to admire what appeared to be a model family committed to progressive values and communal harmony. One of the most poignant and widely circulated images was that of Devontae Hart, then 12 years old, embracing a police officer during a protest in Portland, Oregon, in 2014. Captured amid the heightened tensions following the events in Ferguson, Missouri, the photograph portrayed Devontae, tears streaming down his face, hugging Sergeant Brett Barnum. This powerful image, often referred to as the hug felt round the world, became emblematic of hope and reconciliation during a period of national unrest. However, beneath the surface of this viral moment lay a starkly different reality. Acquaintances of the Hart family later revealed that Jennifer orchestrated such public displays to reinforce the narrative she meticulously curated online. The children were reportedly coerced into posing for photographs that projected happiness and unity, while behind closed doors, they endured strict disciplinary measures, deprivation, and isolation. Jennifer's control extended beyond the physical realm into the digital, where she manipulated perceptions to align with the idyllic image she sought to portray. The disparity between the Hart family's online persona and their lived reality underscores the deceptive potential of social media. Followers, enamored by the picturesque depictions, remained oblivious to the signs of distress and abuse that lurked beneath the surface. This digital veneer not only concealed the children's suffering, but also hindered external intervention, as the carefully curated posts served as a smokescreen, diverting attention from the family's underlying dysfunction. In retrospect, the Hart case serves as a cautionary tale about the illusions that can be crafted in the digital sphere. It highlights the necessity for critical engagement with online content and a reminder that social media profiles often represent a selective, and sometimes deceptive, snapshot of reality. The tragic outcome for the Hart children emphasizes the importance of looking beyond curated images to discern the truths that may lie hidden beneath the surface. In 2011, while residing in Minnesota, Sarah Hart pleaded guilty to a domestic assault charge after one of their daughters reported being hit. Despite this, the family relocated to Oregon and later to Washington, without significant intervention from child welfare authorities. In 2013, while living in Oregon, authorities were notified of the previous abuse allegations from Minnesota. An investigation included interviews with the family and acquaintances. Some family friends reported that the children appeared small for their age and were poorly fed. However, the children did not disclose any new incidents, and the investigation concluded without definitive findings. In August 2017, after moving to Woodland, Washington, their daughter Hannah jumped out of a second-story window and sought help from neighbors, claiming abuse. Later, their son Devontae approached the same neighbors, begging for food and alleging that his mothers withheld meals as punishment. These reports prompted the neighbors to contact authorities. Despite these repeated reports and investigations across multiple states, Jennifer and Sarah Hart managed to avoid significant legal consequences, often attributing concerns to misunderstandings or biases against their unconventional family structure. In the quiet town of Woodland, Washington, the facade of the Hart family began to crumble under the weight of hidden truths. Devontae Hart, a young boy whose image had once symbolized hope and unity, became the harbinger of a grim reality that lay behind closed doors. In late 2017, Devontae approached his neighbors, Bruce and Dana DeKalb, with a plea that was as heartbreaking as it was alarming. He confided that he and his siblings were being deprived of food as a form of punishment by their mothers, Jennifer and Sarah Hart. Devontae's request was simple yet profound. He asked the DeKalbs to leave food in a box by the fence, a clandestine lifeline for him and his siblings. The DeKalbs, initially taken aback, began to observe more closely. Their concern deepened when another child from the Hart family, Hannah, leaped from a second-story window in the dead of night, seeking refuge and protection. She claimed severe mistreatment at home and begged the DeKalbs to shield her from her mothers. These incidents painted a starkly different picture from the loving family portrayed on social media. Despite these alarming encounters, the system designed to protect vulnerable children failed to act decisively. Reports were made, concerns were voiced, yet the Hart children remained in a household that was increasingly revealed to be a facade of familial bliss masking a reality of control and deprivation. In March 2018, the DeKalbs' growing unease culminated in a call to Child Protective Services, CPS. They reported the disturbing behavior and the children's pleas for help, hoping to prompt an intervention that could save the children from further harm. Tragically, before CPS could effectively intervene, the Hart family embarked on a fateful journey that would end in unspeakable tragedy. The cries for help from Devontae and his siblings were clear and desperate. Yet, a combination of systemic failures, the family's transient lifestyle, and the carefully curated image they projected allowed these pleas to go unheeded until it was too late. The Hart family story serves as a haunting reminder of the consequences of overlooked warning signs and the peril of valuing appearances over the well-being of children. On March 26, 2018, a tragic event unfolded on the rugged coastline of Mendocino County, California. Jennifer Hart, accompanied by her wife, Sarah, and their 6 adopted children, drove their GMC Yukon XL off a 100-foot cliff along California State Route 1, near the town of Westport. The vehicle was discovered overturned on the rocky shoreline below, marking the devastating end of the Hart family. Investigations into the crash revealed that Jennifer Hart, the driver, had a blood alcohol content of 0.102%, surpassing the legal limit. Toxicology reports indicated that Sarah Hart and 2 of the children had significant levels of diphenhydramine, the active ingredient in Benadryl, in their systems. This sedative can cause drowsiness, and the amounts found were beyond therapeutic levels, suggesting they were incapacitated at the time of the incident. Data extracted from the vehicle's airbag control module provided chilling insights. The SUV was stationary before accelerating off the cliff, reaching 20 miles per hour within 3 seconds, with the throttle fully engaged. This evidence led a 14-member coroner's jury to unanimously conclude that the plunge was a deliberate act of murder-suicide. In the aftermath, authorities faced scrutiny over missed warning signs. Prior to the fatal drive, Child Protective Services in Washington state had opened an investigation into the family, identifying the children as potential victims of abuse or neglect. However, attempts to contact the family were unsuccessful, and the tragic event occurred before any protective measures could be implemented. The Hart family story serves as a somber reminder of the potential chasm between outward appearances and hidden realities, emphasizing the critical importance of vigilance and timely intervention in safeguarding vulnerable individuals. The tragic demise of the Hart children in California serves as a stark reminder of the systemic failures within the United States foster care and adoption system. This chapter delves into the intricacies of how these 6 innocent lives, Marcus, Hannah, Devontae, Jeremiah, Abigail, and Sierra, were placed into the care of Jennifer and Sarah Hart, examining the racial and systemic issues that pervade the adoption process, and highlighting the ways in which the system failed to protect these vulnerable children. The journey into the Hart household. The path that led the 6 children into the Hart family was paved with complexities and systemic oversights. Initially, these children were removed from their biological families due to concerns of neglect, a term often synonymous with conditions of poverty rather than intentional harm. In 2020, over 70% of all children and 63% of Black children removed into the U.S. foster system were taken from their families under the category of neglect, which frequently correlates with socioeconomic hardships. The decision to place these African American children with Jennifer and Sarah Hart, a white couple, reflects a broader trend within the U.S. adoption system. Transracial adoptions, while sometimes successful, can present challenges related to cultural identity and understanding. The Multi-Ethnic Placement Act, MEPA, and the Interethnic Placement Act, IEPA, were designed to prevent discrimination in the placement process. However, critics argue that these acts may inadvertently overlook the cultural and emotional needs of children of color, leading to placements that don't fully consider the child's background and identity. Racial and systemic issues in adoption. The overrepresentation of Black children in the foster care system is a glaring issue. Black children constitute approximately 14% of the U.S. child population, but represent 23% of those in foster care. This disproportionality can be attributed to a myriad of interrelated socioeconomic factors, including higher rates of poverty among African American communities and systemic racial biases within the child welfare system. Studies have shown that Black children are 1.7 percentage points, 50%, more likely to be placed in foster care than white children, even when accounting for similar maltreatment potential. This disparity is particularly pronounced in high-risk cases, suggesting potential overplacement of Black children or underplacement of white children in similar circumstances. Furthermore, once in the system, Black children often face longer waits for adoption. White children are 1.27 times more likely to be adopted than Black children, with median wait times from termination of parental rights to adoption finalization being shorter for white children, 273.5 days, compared to Black children, 328 days. Systemic failures and the Hart tragedy. The case of the Hart family exemplifies the tragic consequences of systemic failures within the child welfare system. Despite multiple reports and investigations into allegations of abuse and neglect by Jennifer and Sarah Hart, the system failed to take decisive action to protect the children. Days before the fatal crash, Washington Child Protective Services had opened an investigation after a neighbor reported concerns, yet this intervention came too late. If you're finding this story as gripping as we do, hit subscribe and stay with us for more deep dives into the darkest truths. You won't want to miss what's coming next. This incident underscores the critical need for a more responsive and culturally informed child welfare system. The current framework often emphasizes compliance and procedural checks over the well-being and cultural needs of the child. Moreover, the lack of adequate post-adoption support leaves adoptive families without necessary resources, increasing the risk of adoption disruptions and, in tragic cases like the Harts, catastrophic outcomes. Moving forward, addressing the flaws. To prevent future tragedies, several reforms must be considered. 1. Culturally competent placements. Ensuring that adoptive families are prepared and supported to meet the cultural and emotional needs of children from different backgrounds. 2. Bias training. Implementing comprehensive training programs for child welfare professionals to recognize and counteract implicit biases that contribute to racial disparities in foster care placements. 3. Enhanced support services. Providing robust post-adoption support to families to address challenges early and prevent disruptions. 4. Policy revisions. reevaluating policies like MEPA and IEPA to balance the prevention of discrimination with the necessity of culturally informed placements. The story of the Hart children is a somber reflection of the systemic issues plaguing America's foster care and adoption system. Addressing these challenges requires a multifaceted approach that prioritizes the well-being, cultural identity, and safety of every child. After the tragic deaths of Jennifer and Sarah Hart and their 6 adopted children, a critical examination of media narratives reveals a troubling pattern. The romanticization of the Harts as selfless, benevolent individuals embodying the white savior archetype. This portrayal not only distorts the reality of the family's dynamics, but also reflects broader societal biases that often overlook or excuse abusive behaviors when the perpetrators are white, middle class, and socially liberal. Media narratives and the white savior myth. Following the incident in March 2018, numerous media outlets depicted Jennifer and Sarah Hart as devoted mothers who provided a loving home for their 6 black adopted children. This narrative aligns with the white savior trope, wherein white individuals are portrayed as rescuers of people of color, often emphasizing the benevolence of the savior over the autonomy and experiences of those they purportedly help. For instance, early reports highlighted the family's participation in social justice events, such as the widely circulated photograph of Devontae Hart hugging a police officer during a protest. This image was frequently used to underscore the Harts' commitment to activism and their role in fostering racial harmony. However, this superficial portrayal neglected deeper issues within the family and overshadowed signs of abuse and neglect, societal biases, and ignored abuse. The idealized image of the Harts contributed to a societal blind spot regarding potential warning signs. Neighbors and acquaintances reported instances that, in hindsight, indicated troubling dynamics within the household. However, these concerns were often dismissed or not taken seriously, possibly due to the family's outward appearance and social standing. This phenomenon reflects a broader societal tendency to overlook or rationalize abusive behavior when it involves individuals who fit a certain profile: white, middle class, and outwardly progressive. The dissonance between the perceived image and the possibility of misconduct creates a cognitive bias, leading to inaction or inadequate responses from both the community and authorities. Performative activism and the facade of goodwill. The Harts' public persona was meticulously curated, with social media posts showcasing a harmonious family engaged in activism and altruism. This performative activism served as a veneer, concealing the underlying issues and manipulating public perception. By projecting an image of a progressive, loving family, the Harts garnered social capital and deflected scrutiny. This facade not only misled the public, but also potentially influenced authorities' assessments, allowing the cycle of abuse to continue unchecked. The tragic outcome of the Hart family serves as a poignant reminder of the dangers inherent in superficial narratives and societal biases. It underscores the necessity for critical examination of white savior portrayals and the importance of looking beyond curated images to recognize and address underlying issues. Only through such introspection can society hope to prevent similar tragedies in the future. In the tragic narrative of the Hart family, a critical examination reveals a series of missed opportunities and systemic failures that, if addressed, might have altered the devastating outcome. This chapter delves into the overlooked warning signs, the actions that could have been taken, and the harsh reality that, despite evident pleas for help, the children were left unprotected. Missed warning signs. The Hart family's journey was marred by numerous red flags that, in hindsight, painted a clear picture of a household in distress. From as early as 2008, reports of abuse and neglect began to surface. Neighbors recounted disturbing incidents, such as the children appearing malnourished and seeking food from strangers. One particularly alarming event involved a child jumping out of a window and begging for help, prompting a 911 call in November 2017. Despite these reports, interventions were either delayed or insufficient. Child Protective Services, CPS, in multiple states, including Oregon, Washington, and Minnesota, received reports concerning the welfare of the Hart children. However, these reports did not culminate in effective action to safeguard the children. Potential interventions. Several critical junctures presented opportunities for intervention. 1. Early reports of abuse. In 2010, Sarah Hart pleaded guilty to assaulting one of her daughters in Minnesota. This legal admission should have instigated a thorough investigation into the family's dynamics and the well-being of the other children. 2. Educational oversight. The children were withdrawn from public schooling under the pretense of homeschooling. Regular welfare checks by educational authorities could have provided insights into the children's living conditions and potentially uncovered signs of abuse. 3. Community reports. Neighbors consistently reported concerns, especially in the months leading up to the fatal incident. A more robust response to these community-raised alarms might have prompted timely interventions. Systemic failures. The Hart case underscores significant deficiencies within the child welfare system. Interagency communication. The family's mobility across state lines exploited gaps in communication between state agencies, allowing previous reports of abuse to remain unaddressed in new jurisdictions. Bias and assumptions. The family's outward appearance, a seemingly loving, progressive household, may have led authorities to underestimate the severity of the reported concerns. Resource limitations. Overburdened and under-resourced child welfare agencies often struggle to respond promptly and effectively to reports, leading to critical delays. The harsh reality. Despite the children's evident cries for help, systemic shortcomings and societal biases culminated in a lack of decisive action. The tragic outcome serves as a stark reminder of the consequences when warning signs are ignored and vulnerable individuals are left without protection.